In the heart of Europe, a tragedy unfolds. The echoes of conflict reverberate through the streets, leaving a once vibrant city in ruins. The devastation is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the destructive power of war. Ukraine, a nation striving for democracy and self-determination, finds itself grappling with an unprovoked invasion by its powerful neighbor, Russia. The Ukrainian people, who have long yearned for freedom and independence, now face an existential threat. Their protests for democracy are met with violence and aggression, yet their spirit remains unbroken. The conflict has sent shockwaves across the globe, raising fears of a wider war and a return to Cold War tensions. Nations around the world are reacting with a mix of condemnation and concern as the geopolitical landscape shifts dramatically. The international community is on high alert, with diplomatic efforts intensifying to prevent further escalation. The images coming out of Ukraine are heartbreaking: cities reduced to rubble, families torn apart, and millions displaced from their homes. The human suffering is immense, as people are forced to leave behind everything they know and love. The refugee crisis is growing, with neighboring countries struggling to provide shelter and support to those fleeing the violence. This conflict is not just about Ukraine and Russia. It is a battle between democracy and autocracy, between a rules-based international order and a world where might makes right. The stakes are high, and the outcome will shape the future of global politics for years to come. The resilience of the Ukrainian people is inspiring. Despite the overwhelming odds, they continue to fight for their right to self-determination. Their struggle is a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit and the universal desire for freedom and justice. The outcome of this conflict will have profound implications for the future of Europe and the world. It will determine the balance of power and influence in the region, and set a precedent for how the international community responds to acts of aggression. The stakes could not be higher, and the world watches with bated breath. The world watches in horror as a sovereign nation is attacked. The principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity are being challenged, and the consequences of this conflict will be felt far beyond the borders of Ukraine. The international community must stand united in defense of these fundamental principles. The conflict has already claimed thousands of lives, both military and civilian. The human cost of this war is immeasurable, with countless families grieving the loss of loved ones. The toll on the civilian population is particularly devastating, as innocent people bear the brunt of the violence. The human cost of this war is immeasurable. The refugee crisis is a stark reminder of the human toll of conflict, as millions are forced to flee their homes in search of safety. The international community must come together to provide support and assistance to those affected by this tragedy. As the conflict rages on, it is imperative that we understand the roots of this crisis and the factors that have led us to this point. The historical, political, and economic context is complex, and a nuanced understanding is essential for finding a path to peace. Only through a comprehensive analysis can we hope to address the underlying issues and prevent future conflicts. To understand the current conflict, we must delve into the long and complex history between Russia and Ukraine. This history is not just a series of events, but a tapestry woven with cultural, political, and social threads that have bound and separated these two nations over centuries. The two nations share deep cultural and religious ties dating back to the Eastern Slavic civilization. These ties are evident in their shared Orthodox Christian faith, similar languages, and intertwined folklore and traditions that have shaped their identities. Ukraine, once known as the breadbasket of Europe, has been ruled by various empires, including the Russian Empire and the Soviet Union. During these periods, Ukraine's rich agricultural lands were crucial for feeding the empire's population, and its people were often subjected to harsh policies and repression. After the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, Ukraine declared its independence. This moment was a significant turning point, as Ukrainians sought to establish their own national identity and governance, free from external control. Russia, however, has never fully accepted Ukraine's independence. Many in Russia view Ukraine as an integral part of their historical and cultural sphere, leading to a sense of loss and discontent with Ukraine's move towards sovereignty. It views Ukraine as a vital part of its sphere of influence, a buffer state between Russia and the West. This geopolitical perspective has driven much of Russia's foreign policy, aiming to keep Ukraine within its orbit and prevent it from aligning too closely with Western powers. This historical baggage has cast a long shadow over relations between the two countries. The legacy of past conflicts, territorial disputes, and political maneuvering continues to influence their interactions today. It has fueled mistrust and resentment, making it difficult to find common ground. The deep-seated historical grievances and ongoing political tensions have created a complex and often volatile relationship, where each side views the other with suspicion and caution. Despite these challenges, the people of Ukraine have shown resilience and a strong desire to forge their own path. Cultural festivals, national pride, and a growing sense of unity among the younger generation highlight their determination to build a future that honors their heritage while striving for progress and peace. International efforts to mediate and resolve the conflict continue, with diplomats and leaders from around the world seeking to bridge the divide. The hope remains that through dialogue and understanding, a peaceful resolution can be achieved, allowing both nations to coexist and thrive. In 2004, Ukraine found itself at a significant crossroads, a moment that would shape its future for years to come. The presidential election that year was marred by widespread fraud and corruption. It was a fierce contest between a pro-Russian candidate, Viktor Yanukovych, and a pro-Western candidate, Viktor Yushchenko. The stakes were incredibly high, as the outcome would determine Ukraine's geopolitical orientation. The disputed election results sparked mass protests across the country, particularly in the capital, Kyiv. These protests, which came to be known as the Orange Revolution, saw hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians taking to the streets, demanding a fair and transparent electoral process. The sheer scale and intensity of the protests forced the government to announce a rerun of the vote. The Orange Revolution was a pivotal moment in Ukraine's post-Soviet history. It was a powerful demonstration of the people's will and their desire for a democratic society. The movement was characterized by its peaceful nature and the widespread use of the color orange, symbolizing hope and change. The revolution showcased the Ukrainian people's strong desire for democracy and their firm rejection of Russian interference in their internal affairs. It was a clear message to the world that Ukraine wanted to chart its own course, free from external influence. However, the protest also highlighted the deep divisions within Ukrainian society. On one side were those who favored closer ties with Russia, often concentrated in the eastern regions of the country. On the other side were those who looked towards the West, seeking integration with European institutions and values. This division would continue to shape Ukrainian politics and society in the years to come. Despite the initial optimism, the Orange Revolution did not lead to the kind of democratic transformation that many had hoped for. While the rerun election resulted in a victory for the pro-Western candidate, Viktor Yushchenko, the challenges facing Ukraine were far from over. Corruption remained endemic, deeply entrenched in the political and economic systems. Political instability continued to plague the country, with frequent changes in government and ongoing power struggles. The promise of the Orange Revolution, while significant, was not fully realized, leaving many Ukrainians disillusioned and yearning for true reform. The aftermath of the revolution set the stage for future conflicts and challenges, as Ukraine continued its complex journey towards democracy and independence. In 2014, Russia shocked the world by annexing the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine. Crimea, a strategically important region with a majority Russian population, became a focal point of tensions between Russia and Ukraine. Russia's actions were widely condemned by the international community as a violation of international law. The annexation of Crimea marked a turning point in the relationship between Russia and Ukraine. It shattered any remaining trust between the two countries and set the stage for the current conflict. The annexation also demonstrated Russia's willingness to use military force to achieve its geopolitical objectives. The Donbas War simmering tensions. Following the annexation of Crimea, pro-Russian separatists backed by Russia launched an armed insurgency in eastern Ukraine's Donbas region. The Donbas, a heavily industrialized area with a significant Russian-speaking population, became a battleground in a conflict that has claimed over 14,000 lives. The Donbas War, a protracted conflict characterized by trench warfare and indiscriminate shelling, has had a devastating impact on the region. Millions have been displaced from their homes, and the economy of the Donbas has been shattered. The war also served as a training ground for Russian and Ukrainian forces, further escalating tensions. Russia's incursion into Ukraine, a new era of conflict. In February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, marking a dramatic escalation of the conflict. Russian forces, claiming to be conducting a special military operation, attacked targets across Ukraine, including the capital Kyiv. The invasion sent shockwaves across the globe and drew widespread condemnation from the international community. The United States, the European Union, and other countries imposed unprecedented sanctions on Russia, targeting its economy and key individuals. The invasion's global impact. The conflict in Ukraine has had a profound impact on the global stage. It has exacerbated existing geopolitical tensions, particularly between Russia and the West. The war has also disrupted global supply chains, leading to shortages and price hikes in essential commodities, such as wheat and energy. The conflict has also triggered a humanitarian crisis, with millions of Ukrainians displaced from their homes and seeking refuge in neighboring countries. The United Nations estimates that over 14 million Ukrainians have been internally displaced, while over 8 million have fled to other countries. Ukraine's resilience and international support. Despite facing a formidable adversary, Ukraine has mounted a fierce resistance against the Russian invasion. Ukrainian forces, bolstered by Western military aid, have inflicted heavy casualties on the Russian military and managed to slow down their advance. The Ukrainian people have shown remarkable resilience and determination in the face of adversity. Civilians have taken up arms to defend their country, and volunteers have worked tirelessly to provide humanitarian assistance to those in need. The international community has rallied behind Ukraine, providing military, financial, and humanitarian support. If you found this video informative, please like and subscribe to our channel, Express Econ Geo Finance Insights. Don't forget to leave a comment below with your thoughts and questions.